And I believe, Jim, did you have a second then?
Uh, Again, I think a board member needs to make the motion and a board member needs to make the second.
Yeah, so we have.
We did that. We did that.
Okay,
Now-
It's recorded.
we're
Is
good.
there any further discussion on
101.
101? Thank you.
Please
Okay.
forgive me for making it more confusing probably than it needed to be.
All right, I don't see any further discussion, so I'll call for the vote. Everyone in all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Sarah is, no. Okay, so then now we need the add-on to this, correct, Stacy? Or did you just encompass that all in?
Encompassed it in the,
Same.
in her motion.
I think we're good. I don't think Kristen and Stacy need to get together anymore.
For the record, like to state, the reason I'm opposed is not because of the concept, it's the fact that a new tax was brought to the board without any prior notification or understanding. I don't think it put us in a position that once the ball starts moving, it's hard to stop. And I'm not comfortable putting things in motion, more information in the future.
I agree.
We agree.
Okay, with that, I think we've taken care of Kristen's to-do list. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll move on to our deliberations for the Connect Oregon. Jim?
Can we have just like 5-minute break? You guys are making me hungry just watching you
Yeah,
eat.
yeah.
And I need to grab something real quick.
So sure, do you want to say we'll come back? I can give you more than 5 minutes. Do you want to come back at 1:25, 1:30?
5 minutes, 10 minutes is plenty for me. I already know what I want to go warm up, so it'll just take me a minute.
10 minutes.
Okay, we'll come back at 1:25.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It looks like we are back. Are you ready to be back in session, Chair Stevens?
Yes, we are ready. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the deliberations for the Connect Oregon rankings. And Andrew's going to bring up the scoring for us.
Did we decide that? You said, no, I forgot.
No,
That you.
oh, we can participate here,
Can't,
but the next level,
the next level you can't.
Yes.
Right.
the next level,
That's what I
We're
thought,
out.
that was kind of, yeah.
which is fine, because that's 1 week before we open the new terminal. I'm never gonna be able to come to Salem on August 7th. I'm not gonna get out of the office.
No,
You mean Cape Falls? We're going to Cape Falls in August, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I will. No, you have teams for that. Okay. All right, so on the right-hand side, that is how we all ranked. And did we get ranking off every board?
Yes, this is the combined rankings. We didn't add it.
It's going to be great. So there are obviously some ties in here that we would need to break those ties.
Was there a one? Where,
Because it's 2 4s.
Yeah, there was.
There's
okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's how you started it, instead of doing that, okay.
Yeah. So so I think if everybody just absorbs this, takes it in on kind of where the board is full ranking. And then knowing what we've just heard from the ODAV is, you know, pretty much just the top handful of projects are the ones that have the potential to get funded in a larger discussion with all of the other modes.
Especially one that's 1.45 billion.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so what is the, yeah, but see, we need to look for
Yes, then
the reach, the grant funds request.
145 million.
That's a billion. 1.45.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does
I don't
say.
think that's gonna get covered.
No, I think that is it wrong.
Yeah,
See, we're talking.
It's just because it's a percentage.
total project.
H4 needs to be a dollar instead of a percentage.
Yeah,
There we go.
all right. So, so we can kind of do this how you think. I'll just kind of start my thought of flow of how I ranked just the categories. So for me, you know, we know what the Connect Oregon focus is. It's really, you know, economic development and modal transportation. And then, of course, ODAV, we have our own priorities around maintaining infrastructure and that kind of thing. But I think also more recently as a board, we've really had a lot of importance on sustainability, resilience, and fires and all of that. So when I took a look at this list this year, I really, I'll call it out right now. I really have a sense of urgency around the Oak Ridge Airport. And so what I was ranking, I was saying, okay, what about, you know, fire response and resilience, and then capacity and maintaining infrastructure. And then also, is it something that's to benefit all or some? Those are kind of the thought flow that I was using as I was going to scoring.
Cheers.
So,
Excuse, Chair Stevens, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I think
Oh,
if the microphone a little bit closer, because I'm not catching
it's up
everything.
in this room, yeah. So, so I think what we could do is maybe we can all take a turn around the room to say kind of how you prioritized. And if you have any projects that you feel very strongly about, I would say that's a good time to state those. So I kind of already stated mine, that Oak Ridge project, I think, even though, you know, it's a small airport, it's non-NIPIUS and it's not going to get funded another way. But Kenji has given it a really great try to get that funded. And so that was my statement. Maybe we'll just go around the table and then the folks on the screen. So Steve.
Similar thoughts in my ranking. Though I probably would want to update even some of my rankings now, which is why I'm glad we're doing this. But, you know, from my perspective, when I look at these, it is, are we funding capacity enhancement, infrastructure that needs, critical infrastructure that needs reconstruction? Or that would be first, you know, so runways, taxiways that need reconstruction or that need significant work. Critical capacity enhancement, new runways, new taxiways, terminals, aprons, things like that that add capacity and volume to that. And then thirdly, resiliency. Are we adding to the overall resiliency of the state to do that? And so that's my underlying one. And I would look at this again now, even after listening to some of the comments and things of the presenters, and maybe even rebalance a few things based on that as well. But critical infrastructure, capacity enhancements, and resiliency.
Bill?
I was focused mainly on return on investment with economic development, as this was the type of things that, and put everything else kind of lower than that, and then also metrics by the amount being asked for to the capital, the per capita amount of people that it was affecting. So the only thing I did was I had Eugene in the top 4 instead of Medford, right? But I understand now, I didn't quite understand what Medford was doing until I got the presentation. So I'm oscillating on the Medford thing, right? But because of the major airports and the cargo in and out, which is a big part of our Oregon, not just Portland area, that's an Oregon thing, right? I had the 3 main airports, which was PDX, Redmond, and Eugene. And then for the follow-up for the Oak Ridge stuff, that is important. But there's a bias there because we've been talking about that and understood the need for that, and its location is ideal for where we're at. The thing about having airports way out in the middle of nowhere that want to be resiliency, I get all that, and the 88 part is key, but the 88 part for the Eugene Airport was kind of more, you know, I put 88 stuff very high up, and when you're doing that, but again, the return on investment per capita was higher in Eugene, so I had Eugene much higher in the rankings. Other than that, that was pretty much the same.
Sarah?
For me, economics was the first priority, and that encompasses what you were saying, Steve, capacity, you know, as far as businesses being able to grow or continue, but also job creation, all of those metrics. I did look at how much are they bringing to the table, the percent of match, you know, that did influence a little bit on mine. And then you used the term resilience. I was using system preservation, same thing, and more on that resilience, not so much maybe in Cascadia, but regional response. So those were the 2 main things I just kept going back to. And then kind of in the spirit of what Connect Oregon is, that larger umbrella, how that fits in the system.
So did you match?
I had some very, so I forgot that part. You asked about favorite projects. I don't have Oak Ridge at the top, but I had it in 4th place. So my 1, 2, and 3 kind of are a little different than here, but they fall very much in line with what I was thinking too. The only place where mine gets a little muddier is probably where everybody else is during those 7, 8s, and 9s. And I think that's probably a pretty clear-cut consensus of where we were all coming from.
And I can't see you on the screen, but Jim, do you have some comments?
Can you see me on the screen now?
Well, we've got the spreadsheet up, that's why.
Oh, gotcha.
He's up. His camera's on.
I would tell you that, you know, I echoed the comments of each of you that have shared these, shared with, how did I prioritize these? And it was a combination of what all you said. I would throw in also bumping up my perceptions up against the statutory requirements, bumping up against what we've, you know, have done through the core grant process of looking at what was the most important thing, and resiliency, emergency response, on these projects came pretty close to the top of my priorities. But also, it's important that I looked at is what's going to be the economic impact for the local community and for the state at large. And really importantly, how does it impact, a system-wide across the state? What will be those projects that will have the greatest impact? And then lastly, I would say is that I've really wrestled with our own airports, state-owned airports. We have very little opportunities to improve their position except through budgeting, and grants are, pretty difficult for us. So I really did try to be objective. The best I could is to try to move some of our state-owned airports higher up in ranking. So I would tell you, here's what I did was, let's just maybe start with the top 5 projects. My number one was Jackson County, the Medford, the heavy duty aircraft one. My number 2 was Eugene. I just thought that the impact to the community and to the airport and the structure of the airport, I just found that to be really did fit towards the economic benefits to the state of moving the Eugene up closer to the top. The third one was for the Port of Portland. Again, for some of the very same reasons. It was, the impact to industry and the impact to the jobs was incredibly important. Maintaining those operations, I felt that those were important. Number 4, I had as Oak Ridge. Again, trying to move those closer to the top because, when it's falling apart, we're at the stage where if we don't fix it now, it's just going to be maybe not even a slow death, but a quick death. It won't be able to continue its operation. And I think because of the emergency response opportunities in firefighting, that's, we needed to move that higher. And, fortunately, that was our number 4 as a group as well. And then my number 5 was the Coos County Airport. Kind of the similar reasons was they've got to fix these things before it's be too late and too expensive to fix. So I wanted to move that up closer to the top. So any questions from any of the board members about my perceptions?
Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
We'll go to another round too, but I want to get to Jeff as well.
All right.
Thank you, Chair Stevens. I think I had a similar approach to most of our colleagues here. Every single one of the projects appeared to be really important, good projects, which, from the get-go made it kind of challenging. I'm always going to lean on the side of public safety and the benefits to the greater good. And it's saying that there are a lot of economic benefits from having quick response, to a lot of the projects that were being called out, whether they were fuel tanks, which would give additional capacity for firefighting aircraft, to do quicker turnarounds depending on, what was happening in the region. And I think my numbers sort of fell right in line with everyone else. I was definitely challenged with the bigger number projects only because, you look at how much was available, 46 million, that's not that much. And while the economic benefits from, the 2 bigger requests would be significant, there's a lot to be said about looking at the smaller dollar projects. We should be thinking about some of those smaller dollar projects because while they may not bring the same economic value as the bigger dollar ones, for that region, that area, they do. And that was really hard for me to choose. But unless you guys want to know specifically what my rankings were, I think we're all pretty close. With where we agree, but that's what I was using with regard to the metrics.
All right, thank you for that. So I would suggest, unless somebody wants a second round, then we probably need some suggestions about, so, and what the magic number is, I don't know. It looks to me like the first 4 spots are the ones that we should really solidify and then sort out the remaining, because we do have to actually rank them and not have duplicate numbers. So does anybody want to put forward a shuffle on that top 4?
The only one I would say is, if we're going to shuffle anything, I really feel like everybody's comments about Oak Ridge and maybe even moving it up 1 spot or something just is, in its level of importance to the overall aviation system in the state, both from emergency management, from the operational issues of where it's located. I feel like if we really have that level of importance, maybe it goes up 1 position or so. I don't know, but it's, you know, it's a good sized project and it's in the amount that it's asking for, but I think it's also one that is valuable. You know, there's real demonstrated value as to why we've all suggested and supported that.
Jeff Pritchard gave a thumbs up while you were talking, just
Okay.
you can't see that up there.
I agree. Yes, baggage with your terminal. I
Right.
understand that they have more mechanisms for coming up with that in the future. Oak Ridge,
There's not.
we've exhausted so many options, and so I hate for this one to be right, so close, but just on the cutoff.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. You know, as was pointed out, Redmond's terminal is the #1 priority in Region 4 or whatever, and so it's going to get attention. It's going to get all that. Oak Ridge has the potential to get lost in the shuffle of things.
And I would just point out about Oak Ridge, because, you know, we're talking about economic development. The loss of the economic engine that firefighting base that has evolved there.
That's a good point, too.
That, I mean, that's taking it like an entire industry away from that Oak Ridge area.
Any potential future.
Yes, correct. And the UAS work that is being done out there now as well. So, because once it's closed, it's closed. It's not like it's going to be open to a different type of user.
So would you swap 2 with 4B?
I know my preference, but I'll let everyone else
I
weigh
was
in
just
first.
suggesting doing, or
Bring 2 down to 4B and move everybody else up 1?
just the ones that are rated 4, which is Redmond and ODAV. I was just suggesting flipping those 2.
Oh, okay, so then it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
in the order that it stands right now. So suggestion is keep the, or flip 4B with 4A and then title them 1, 2, 3.
We have
Yeah.
Jeff's hand up first and then Jim's hand up.
Yeah, sorry, we can't see them, Holly. So yeah, please let us know. So Jim, go ahead. Oh, sorry, you said Jim was first, correct?
I have this hunt. I mean, we've gone through this, you know, through the core grants, but why don't we pick an agreement on #1 and then move to 2 and then to 3 and then to 4? I think it might go quicker.
I agree. Jeff, did you have a comment?
Yeah, it was sort of an anecdotal comment. You know, a lot of times when we think about the economy and how the aviation component, you know, is important to invest in, you know, i.e. Oak Ridge. I think one of the other areas that we forget about is also the ground transportation. So the longer we have roads shut down, that's goods and commerce that are not getting from one part of the state or people getting from one part of the state. So they all sort of interrelate. So I really appreciate some of the discussion that has been brought up regarding, you know, what can happen to some of these industries if we're not thinking about that.
Yeah, you know, my only, Jim, I appreciate your comment. In order to facilitate and expedite the discussion, as opposed to each of us saying our #1 and then going up, why don't we start with the list that is already our combined and say with number one, if we all still agree, if we agree with number two, if we agree with number three, if we're not, does it move up or down? And then that's a good place, I think, to start.
I'm sorry, except we don't have a number one on the combined list.
Oh, that's just because of the numbering. Yeah, number two is number one, actually. I know it's a little confusing. I will just take chair priority to say very clearly, I would like to move Oak Ridge to the number one spot. I think that there's enough urgent need for that entire region. And let's not forget, that's also a connector from Eastern Oregon to Western Oregon, as far as the roadway there. So that's just my suggestion. I don't know what y'all think.
I'll follow your suggestion by getting a little more detailed by saying, I would recommend we've been looking at the aviation board, flip 2 with 4B and then call the top 4 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yes, I see. So
Line 5 up to line 2.
I don't know what B means. One B.
There's 2 4s. There's 4A and 4B.
Okay.
Saying flip 2 and 4B
yeah, so
and call them 1, 2, 3.
yeah, Oak Ridge up to spot 1 and then rank from there. Is that correct?
Well, no, because I'm putting 2 down to 4B.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
Oh, gotcha.
So that would be 4 and 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Right in this chart.
So you got that, Andrea. So in that column, you would put
4, then 1, then 2, then 3. That's what my suggestion is. Right.
I thought, is that?
Or sorry, no, sorry. Oak Ridge is number 1.
Right.
Number
Right.
one.
Oak Ridge is number 1, and then the number 1 goes to number 2. Sorry.
That's
4B
That's
is
2.
one.
still.
This is 3. This is 3.
Yes. There we go.
1, 2,
There we
3,
go.
4. That's what I'm suggesting. Right.
So
I'm,
your methodology for why what was first is now 4 rather
Because
than
I
bumping
didn't,
it to 2.
just where I didn't quite, parking another C5A there was great for if we have a major earthquake, but I didn't see totally where it was doing economic development, right? Literally just that, is as simple as that, from my point of view. Right.
I'm interested to hear, I don't mean to pick on you guys, Steve, but I'm really interested to hear the thinking around the support for the cargo apron at PDX. Just from other board members. Because it was ranked really high by everybody, right? So
For me, that's just affecting a whole lot of industries in the state of Oregon. Right.
And I see it as the e-commerce hub. Everything's getting shipped to me.
yeah,
And
Through Portland, I should say from, but through.
can we answer?
You're cutting out a little bit over there on your end.
all right, we'll try and project better.
Can
I
we
think
answer about our own?
yes, I think we can answer. We can't, we shouldn't advocate, but we can
I'm not
answer.
going
Yeah.
to, you're right. What I didn't hear, or maybe I heard Steve Winkle present, but maybe it didn't land or as much. It is one of the very few, if only, multi-use. It will not be leased to anybody directly, so it will be able to handle cargo operators from a whomever basis. It is not a lease to Amazon. It is not a lease to that. So it is a true multi-use, common use facility. It adds greater capacity. So yes, from that perspective.
Andrew, does anybody have their hand up? See, okay.
That
Okay,
was just my take, what I
Yeah,
said.
sure.
Right.
I
okay.
can support
It-
that because, I just really think it has the, if we say Oak Ridge has a real priority for the state and for multiple reasons, it should be in the top 4 and it should be funded.
Does anybody, I guess I should ask it, so are we all at least in consensus at this point in the discussion? The far right column, do we agree with those rankings now?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So the next 3 things, 5, 6, 7. If we look at the sevens, and
Yeah.
those, then that would be 5, 6, 7. So if we.
So then that's where the debate is, right? Do
Right down to 3
we
sevens.
know these are getting less and less likely to be funded, but we should make sure,
And
because those would be, Andrew, those were just randomly put as in his sevens, right? So we didn't actually, there's not a differentiation there, correct?
No.
They all tied it.
It was our
Yes.
average.
they averaged out, right?
So we can, I mean, we could and should actually talk about each one of those that are tied and then
For
put
sevens.
them in the correct
Like
order.
Mike.
Yes.
That's
Mhm.
just,
I will start, I'll be happy to start that off. And this is, I looked at those three that were sevens when I first ranked them originally as well. And if I used my criteria of investing in infrastructure, or keeping infrastructure alive, investing in capacity, and then investing in resiliency, as much as the Dalles and the Grant County projects are good, they don't come up against, in my opinion, or don't equal what Eugene is recommending from that perspective. Because, a fuel tank and an expansion and upgrade is great, and it does have some resiliency. And airport hangars are kind of betting on the future development of the facility. The community need, the new infrastructure to meet that need was really in Eugene's. And in mine, I had flipped all those, and Eugene had moved up to the top of those sevens list when I had ranked mine.
for me, I had Eugene much, much higher. I really thought the needed service to a larger per capita, basis was high, and the ADA improvements for that size of population that they're serving is critical. I'm a big fan of ADA, so you hear that a lot from me, right? So, and I was a little surprised actually you needed those ADA upgrades, but you need them.
You should be
Right.
surprised, yeah.
Yeah.
Should have been addressed.
Yeah. So I would have that, Eugene is 5, and then the 6 would be Columbia Gorge, and 7 would be Grant County. That would be what I would do. I didn't quite know about the Grant County one, because I don't know just how much usage they get. This goes back to our last meeting in Pendleton when I said I kind of need a normalization metric per usage to know how much usage these guys, each airport does, right?
I know you don't see, but Jeff's hand is up.
Oh,
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair Stephen, thanks. With regard to Grant County, I'm not sure if it would work right now, but if I were to pull up the fire aviation map, you'd see a lot of planes zooming around all over that area.
Doesn't use it.
that'd be good. That's good information,
Yeah,
and
it is.
I would put them next after Eugene.
I putting Grant above Columbia.
The only other challenge I have with prioritizing some of these numbers, Mr. Nagy, I totally agree with what you're saying in terms of the economic development, but from a numbers game, a numbers perspective, if we continue to fund these big dollar items, we've got a lot of these smaller projects that could also equally provide a lot of benefit to not only the community, but the aviation community and beyond. It would seem as though the more of the little projects we could fund, the better off we're going to be, as opposed to just doing the big ticket items all the time. I like the way it's listed now, only that if the rail and the marine don't have as many, applications that score as high as the ones that we're doing, then I think it would make sense for it to fall in the place that it's at. But knowing that there's $46 million, that's not that much money to go around. But that's just one perspective.
So Jeff, let me respond. I don't want to have there any miscommunication, because in fact, when I was looking at these projects, what was the number one thing was, how do we respond to fires? Because that's such an important issue. So it doesn't diminish that the economic impact of the other projects isn't really important, but truly I would agree with you is that we need to really focus in these times, and environmental issues and climate change and all of the things that's participating is the projects that address those issues were the ones that attracted me the most. But when you look at the statutes and the requirements from on the ODAV grants, it's also, we get, sorry, I get distracted when there's other conversations that are going
sorry.
on the side. So Jeff, I agree with you. I want to give a high marks for those projects that increase our capacity or continue to maintain what we can for emergency response has been extremely important. So if you took it in a different way than that, then I apologize for my, bad communication or how strong I feel about that.
No, there's no bad communication. I think that's the best part of this process is, we all come from very diverse backgrounds, and in this, respectful environment where, we are trying to consider the best options for the least amount of dollars. I learn a lot from everyone here, with their varied backgrounds. So I think this is the kind of discussion that, I think the public demands of all of us.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't take your position any other way than what I just mentioned.
Andrew, can we go back to the spreadsheet? Sorry, Jim.
I do think that we have to give recognition to, ODOT's really desire for the biggest bang for the buck, and from one of those issues is, economic development and the health and well-being financially of our state. So while we as airport folks understand the importance of our emergency response requirements, that may not necessarily be how the state legislature or how ODOT folks feel about it as well. So, boy, how we balance that, that's a tough one.
So Andrea, could you put, I'm just going to try to move us forward because I know we're running up on time. So Eugene is 5, Grant County is 6, Columbia is 7. Does everyone agree on that?
I haven't talked on this time.
Sure.
And I should have asked Ms. Walker for some more. Knowing ODF has shut down their seat base in John Day, the fire presence that I'm aware of is helicopter, and they are by contract self-sufficient. They have fuel trucks with them.
True.
And so for me personally, I move it down, not because I'm worried about the fire. I just understand what resources are being used there, and clearly they need a new fuel system. But perhaps it's not as high on the resiliency as some of the other firefighting response in the region.
The other thing, and I would say to both Jeff and to Jim, and I think that John alluded to this, we're going to rank them here. We don't know how much will be for the aviation system. We're going to rank them here. And if it gets down to the point where they've ticked off the first 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, and a 10 or a $13 million project comes up, and all that's left is 6 million, they're going to skip over that one, and they're going to fund a bunch of smaller ones that add up to 6 million. So I don't think our role here is to worry about the dollars right now. Our role is to look at what has that fits the best criteria, and that's going to get looked at as these go forward as well. So yes, I'm concerned about a number of large ones at the top that potentially looks like it is taking from smaller valuable projects. But if there's only a finite pot of money, and whose ever next large project shows up is unavailable to be funded, you may have been ranked third or whatever, but you're not going to get it, and a bunch of smaller ones below you are going to.
Yeah, and we've seen that happen.
And we've seen that happen.
Jeff has his hand up.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for that clarification. A lot of the different grant projects I'm involved with, they don't necessarily go that way. So that is helpful to hear. Thank you.
Okay. Any thoughts on this ranking? Would you like to reshuffle 6 and 7?
Be in favor of that.
Other thoughts?
Well, right now we have at 7. We have where do we have the Grant County one, right? No, 7.
Columbia.
Oh,
The hangar.
The reason,
if that waiting list is true and it brings them that close to self-sufficiency, that's a big deal to me.
So what about, right now, we have 6, 7, and 8, and 8 being Christmas Valley. Is there any, I mean, that's a runway. Is there any value in looking at that versus hangar development and a fuel system? Looking at the next one down. I mean, scoring wise, they're only separated there, the last ones, by a few points. They're 83, 81, 82. If you look at the actual total scoring, they're in a dead heat. And if I was looking at things like runways, I would probably think a runway score is pretty high.
The statutory scoring, how did those get ranked? I'm looking at why are these that we're struggling with these four right here, the Dallas scores higher?
So those scores came from the ODAV staff review based on the statutory requirements that ODOT gave us to go through with the application. So that's how they ranked through that.
Pretty similar to core.
Yeah.
John may have to help here a little bit, but they excuse me, are in line with, their total lifespan of the project, 10, 20 plus years. How many long-term employees? Let's see, what else was on that list? It's been too long now.
It's actually the statutory requirements are the same ones that we use for core. So it's looking at those same things like the economic benefit to the state. It's all that similar stuff.
I'm just saying,
Christmas is 8. Christmas Valley is 8.
I'm saying Christmas Valley is 8 right now, and we're talking about, we've obviously agreed that Eugene goes up to 5, but now we've got, in 6, we've got Grant County, in 7th, we've got the Dalles, and in 8 is Christmas Valley. But Christmas Valley is pretty close by statutory grading, is very similar to the others. And so, is a runway project, if you're talking about it, spreading your dollars and investing it and going around, is that one better or not? I don't know. I'm throwing that out there.
Based on that logic, then the Dallas were up to 6 because they did score statutorily higher, 10 points.
Right.
Well, that's if that was the only criteria. We were using other criteria for the top.
Right, but he mentioned that they were all.
Now that we're down to now we're down to the lower projects.
Yeah.
So-
What are the metrics we want to use for the lower level projects?
I think the easiest way for us to streamline this process is if we just break the ties and then keep
Yeah.
Yeah.
keep
So that
the
would keep
the
Christmas
8
Valley
there.
as 8.
I am good
That's fine.
swapping to Sarah's
Like breaking-
preference, the
breaking
6
that.
and the 7, if you are all amenable
Yeah,
to that.
I'm good with
So you want to change
7, yeah, that
to
was 7, and then the next was 6.
That's fine.
And then, so
that.
we,
That's what I usually say.
okay, then look at the 9s. Do we have a
Whoa,
preference?
whoa.
Oh, so sorry. I
Yeah.
don't see you. So yeah, you do have to speak up.
Yeah, well, trying to catch up on the thought process, first of all. I think that, can you go back to the scoring sheet, please? Put that back up. Or, let me do this. There we go, that works. One second. The Grant County, I think, deserves to be higher because of the old oil tanks need to be replaced. It's got aging infrastructure. It's cost savings. So it lowers the risk of supply. And it's high demand for firefighting and medical support. So those things in my mind are more important than the other two. So I honestly would put Columbia Gorge at number 5.
The alternative argument that was delivered here was that the Columbia Gorge project was presented as making that airport self-sufficient.
Okay,
which is a major comment.
wait a second.
I think, Jim, you said
No,
Columbia
I'm sorry.
before, but you were talking about Grant County.
I was talking about Grant County, not Columbia Gorge. I'm looking at my notes and then looking at three different spreadsheets. It's easy to get a little bit lost there. So, on the current scoring, then the Grant County, we have as number 7, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
That's the one that I think needs to be moved up.
Number 6 instead?
Yeah, and so we did make the comments correctly, in my opinion,
I think so too.
because Columbia Gorge has the opportunity to become self-sufficient
Okay,
And
with this grant.
there was some comment or some concern about the Forest Service at Grant County as well.
Right, like I say, I know ODF has pulled their base out of there and, so strategically, the state foresters have determined Burns, Ontario, Pine Belt to be where they want their resources to be. I do know, and I'm looking, there's 3 helicopters parked on the right now, but helicopters, because they're meant to be out in the field working, they bring their truck with them. So, I mean, the comment about life flight certainly is still valid, there are, but when it comes to firefighting, the state is not prioritizing John Day the way it once did. And there is still a Forest Service presence there, but not necessarily aircraft.
So I'm going to suggest we move down the rest of the list and revisit this. So the 9s, I think are listed appropriately. Do you all agree, or do you have a
Yes.
difference of opinion?
Yes.
Okay. 9, 10. Then 11.
11, yep.
Okay, so now we've got the 3 12s. I'm just gonna put out here and you
think
guys.
that Jim might be talking, but he's,
Oh.
I see it flashing, but I didn't hear him, so I wasn't sure if he was wanting
No.
to say something.
Okay.
No, I wasn't talking. I'm listening.
All right, I'm gonna keep
Okay.
going.
Jeff's
Okay,
hand's
so-
up now.
Oh, Jeff.
Jeff just
Okay.
raised his hand.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yes, with the 12s, obviously, I'm a little bit more on the side of leaning towards uncrewed aircraft for a wide variety of reasons. But when we look at economic development, there's so much that is yet to be discovered, and to have the ability to add an additional test range for all the different businesses that are trying to test their products. We have the test range out east. We have one at the coast. To have one in the Burns area will allow for additional development and testing at all times during the year. And when we look at the economics, they're not asking for that much. So to me, it seems like that should be a something we should look at, as far as the 12s, prioritizing that a little bit higher than everyone else.
I'm good with the order they're in.
Jim just raised his hand.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Jim.
I wanted to respond to Jeff. I looked at that really close too, and what I saw in their application is this is a brand new startup. And I would have liked to have seen a lot more development in their application of how far along they are. And there was no mention of anybody that was committing to come there if it was built. It was just, we have this great idea. We would like to build this test range. Oh, by the way, we don't really have any money for it, and we don't really have any customers for it, and we don't have a manager for it. I think that needs a little bit more stirring in the pot. It needs a little bit more development before it gets to the point of a grant. And that's, it's just my opinion. So I
I have
wouldn't.
to agree with Jim. Yeah,
I would
it's a great idea, but we need to see a little more teeth in it first. So I'm going to throw it out here again that we flip all of these and we go Malino, Corvallis, and Burns.
I'm good with that. And I'm thinking about it some more now. The having a test range in Burns doesn't compete with what's in, we just saw. in
That we just saw.
Right, I mean, that's massive.
No
Yeah,
letter of commitment, though, no letter of support with city of correct.
I agree. Yeah, and Pendleton puts a ton of money as a city into their drone range, and they're heavily invested.
I have to say, once we get to the bottom on the record, I wish we had more money.
I do
Oh my
too.
gosh,
Because
yes.
it's not just
I know.
because Malino or.
Or
No.
Arlington.
It's all
Does
needed.
not mean they
Right.
were not good projects.
Right.
And
Actually, it's kind of a
It's-
painful process for us, right?
Yeah.
Is everybody good with the bottom of the list there?
Yes.
We can go back
Yeah.
up. And anybody,
Yeah. Hang on.
Okay.
I don't want us to be impacted by the presentation of Linus Pauling Field. I'm familiar with the airport and what they're struggling with, what they're trying to commit to. And I would say I would move the Pauling up because really the focus of their attention was that fuel tank and that having dependable fuel storage in the event of a Cascadia or any other emergency event. And really, I mean, they're out there in the middle of nowhere. To me, that seems to just to be a little bit higher of a priority. So I would just argue for moving that up at least not to be the last.
Should we move Burns to
Swamp.
the last position?
It's very
Sorry,
speculative.
Burns. Yeah, it's
Yes.
speculative. It's
Yes.
speculative.
Yes, I would agree.
Still a great idea. I hope they continue to pursue
Yeah.
that. All right, so if we're all comfortable with the bottom of the list, then let's go back up and revisit the 6 and 7. Yep, yep.
Columbia Gorge, hangar expansion.
I'm okay with where they're at. I think,
Yeah, let's resort at this point so we can.
Yeah. I'm good with where they're at.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm running out of steam of arguing, so I'll say yes.
We got it in order before.
Okay, yeah. All right, so here's the final order we have. So everybody take a look.
So I have a message in the chat from John Boren. It froze. He would like to speak on how this squares with other rankings if there is time or interest.
That'd be great.
Sure, yeah. I'm guessing it's probably quite different. So go for it, John.
Yeah, it is a little bit different, and that's why I just wanted to, you have the benefit of the other folks having gone first. So the way it looks now is that the City of Redmond Airport project, because it was well rated by the region, would be in our safe zone. It's in the first 31 million of available funds. And then the next kind of the yellow zone are either 15 million above or below the cut line. This is in order that it gets normalized, would be the PDX Air Trans Center, then the Oak Ridge Airport Runway, Medford Airport, the Grant County, Christmas Valley, the Columbia Gorge, the City of Roseburg, and then the very last, just barely within being able to be considered is when you tally all the funding is the Eugene Airport. And so the final review committee would, if you came forward with this list, the City of Eugene Airport would be kind of on the outside looking in, and for it to move up, it would have to move $13.5 million worth of projects above it down, in some fashion for it to get over that hump to be under the, the 46.5 million or so we have available.
Could we please put John's comments in columns O, please? That would be helpful to see.
And I can also share the screen. There's a lot of numbers, even more than you're already dealing with.
I think we want to see it side by side is the thing.
Okay.
So John, if you
I
can
will.
just read them off so Andrea can plug in the number because we want to see it side by side.
Okay. So your
Let's say that again.
your group here is under column AK Aviation Priority. So the City of Redmond Airport project shows up first, then the PDX AirTran Center, then the Oak Ridge Airport, the Medford Airport, then the Grant County, then the Christmas Valley, and the Columbia Gorge.
Hang on one second, Andrew's catching up.
Yeah. And I can screenshot it too, or you know.
Left off at Columbia Gorge.
Okay. And then the kind of at the cut line, just barely above it, if the final review committee were to keep things as is, would be that Roseburg project.
The Eugene was on the bubble.
And then the Eugene here, the kind of the window of projects that can be considered below the cut line are essentially in order from about 46.5 million to 62 or almost 63 million. So it takes up that space. We had thought there would be a number of projects below, but it's large, and then the next port project's pretty large too. So
This is really helpful, John. Thank you.
Say, I think our more intimate knowledge of Oak Ridge and the efforts that have gone there make me still comfortable keeping that
Yeah.
where it is.
No question about it.
Hey, John, just maybe for my reference, when it goes to the final review.
Yep.
In the past, is that generally all in line with kind of what you have there in front of you, or do they switch things around a bit?
So in the past, there's been a perception that everything is up for discussion, which takes a long time, but in the end, only a few projects above or below get moved around. Like I think in the previous process, Martha, who represented your group, had a small airport that got moved above because it was in a similar situation to the Oak Ridge Airport. So in this case, it would be the projects that are in yellow in the running total that would be in consideration for the final review committee to move around. So if a project is in the red group, it's ranked too low to get moved up. So unfortunately, any of these airport projects below that just weren't quite strong enough to make it into that cut. And then the same with the Redmond Airport. At the final review committee, it can't be kicked out because it was so well ranked by this group, as well as in region 4. So it's, you call it safe.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm getting from this is, even if we ranked Redmond 15th, because it's such a value to that region,
Yeah,
it's gonna stay in the top positions.
it would put it in the middle.
I'm not suggesting it being ranked 15th. I'm just saying that it carries a lot of weight just because of how it's being carried in that region.
Yeah, and I played around with that, and if we put it in 15th, it would put it in the middle, like just above the cut line. So it'd be more that it's up for discussion now instead of safe.
Yeah, and again, I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying that based on all the other weightings, it carries, it comes into it with a lot different weighting that even if we change something significant.
Yeah, and I would just look at, again, I don't want to prolong your meeting, that, looking at these projects that are just below that, if, say like this Ontario or the Southwest Oregon, if they were several spots higher, then they might be able to be flipped around. I haven't played with that, but they're small enough that they don't blow out the back end of the available funds in the same way as the Eugene Airport. But if the group's satisfied with the results sort of as is, then we can certainly proceed forward.
I don't know if you in the office can see on the spreadsheet of what John has stated, but I can't see it. The side-by-side comparison. It's not popping up on my screen because all I'm looking at is John's spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I can stop sharing if that would help.
Just for a moment.
Yeah, I'll get that in. Yeah.
So I'm feeling like I don't necessarily feel like we need to change our ranking to adapt to the other regional rankings.
I don't either.
Have different perspectives.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
And that's why they ask us our opinion. Right. So.
that's our job.
And it,
in the-
yes,
in the
right.
long
Yeah.
run.
I mean, there's maybe one outlier in there
The-
that they don't understand, but. All right.
It's not like somebody ranked 115th and one.
Yeah.
We're, you know, the top third is all the same, the middle third is the same, the bottom third is all the same. Where they exactly slot may be a place or two off.
Yeah. So I do have a point of process is, do you need a vote on this, or is our consent rankings, is that appropriate?
Other groups have typically taken, a quick vote just to have it fully on the record. You don't have to vote on who will be the final review committee representative.
It won't be three of us. And Bill just stepped out of the room, so I don't want to call for a vote until he's back in, but I know he has to go and I need to go.
Yeah.
I need to get up
So we
there,
will
too.
cue that up for the moment he comes in the room. Jim and Jeff, do you have any other final thoughts?
So John, just for helping me, would be looking at the spreadsheet that we have up there. From your spreadsheet, which ones then most likely would not be considered? What's the difference between?
You're on the bubble, and most likely something happens,
Right.
which is very possible.
Well, right now, the only ones that are,
Frankly.
the Roseburg is pretty much at the bubble, but it's so small, it could be flexed pretty easily in. And then it's really the Eugene Airport that's on the other side of the bubble. The ones that are just above are Grant County, Christmas Valley, and Columbia Gorge. And the only way that they could really move below is if someone pushed for the Eugene Airport to move above. So it's kind of a limited path for those to get kicked out.
My hands.
I think that it is a possible scenario, but it does seem, based on the comments I've heard in other groups, this group as well, it seems like an unlikely scenario.
Which is the unlikely scenario?
That there would be a move that would gather sufficient support to move the Eugene Airport above the cut line, and then move the equivalent amount of money's worth of other projects below.
So on your spreadsheet, since I can't see it, where did Eugene fit?
It fit just in the yellow zone. Its amount of money added put us into like 62 million.
Okay, so I know Bill needs to go, and so we're gonna try to do a process here of a vote. So, and I can't see Jeff, so maybe we can put the other. So,
Jeff is now on.
Okay, so as far as the ranking, actually leave that spreadsheet up for just a second, Andrea. So we're gonna that's our consensus that we've had this discussion and ranking. I need a motion that this is our official ranking.
So moved.
Okay, I got a so moved from, that from Jeff, I can tell Jeff. Okay, second from Steve Nagy. Is there any further discussion about this? And all those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. And I just want to thank everybody so much. I know this is a lot of work and brain power, and I really truly appreciate all of the thoughtfulness that has gone into this deliberation, and also the respectful decorum of everyone. I very much appreciate that. So thank you, everybody. And
John, thank you, John, very much. It was really helpful.
yeah,
But no, appreciate the depth of
Jeff has his hand
discussion.
up.
yeah, Holly, if there's nothing else for us, then
Final review
Jeff
committee
has his
member?
hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to drop one last thought, and that's thanks to the staff and to John and everybody else that helped tabulate and correlate all this. While it was definitely challenging for us, we couldn't get to where we were as a collaborative group without your assistance. So thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Okay, with that, then thank you, everybody, and I will close this meeting.
Hallelujah.
Thank you.
8:30. Thanks
Thank
for joining
you.
us.
Go ahead and stop the recording.
You got it? Okay, don't want to.
Thank you, everyone.